Hello, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Hjalmar Gislason. I'm the founder and CEO of DataMarket, and this morning has been quite fantastic for me. We are all about two things. First of all, helping people find all the fantastic data that is available, which is what David talked a lot about, and then understanding it through visualization. But I'm not here to talk about that, but it's been a really insightful morning. I'm here more or less to ask you two questions about the opportunities in open data. But before I ask these questions, I'm going to answer one. Actually, I don't have to spend a lot of time on that because David did it really well. That's the question, what is open data? And we've seen quite a lot of examples of that this morning. There are, however, some really good definitions of open data. My favorite one being the so-called open definition from the Open Knowledge Foundation. It has 11 points that kind of talk about what it means for data to be open. And that has to do with technology. It has to do with the licenses that you can reuse and republish data by. And several other things. All in all, 11 points. But for the matter of this speech, what matters mainly is that open data is data that you can easily get at, hopefully on the web, and you are allowed to reuse it and republish it, and there are not a lot of limitations to kind of how you get to it and how you use it. So what kind of opportunities could that possibly have for companies? I think there are two sides to that. The first one is that there's a lot of data out there that you might be able to use. So you could make use of all that available data. And the second one, which sounds maybe a little bit scary, is that there may be opportunities in opening up some of your own data. And I'll give you examples of both. First of all, there's more data out there than you could imagine. We just deal with numerical data, quantitative data, from the likes of the UN and World Bank and these guys. And certainly we probably have the largest collection of such data. We have about 100 million time series of data from kind of open sources, but we've still barely scratched the surface of the data providers that we want to work with. This data has profound meaning for almost everybody. Regardless of the industry you're working in and the type of business you have, there is data out there that can help you run your business better. And what we found is that there are so many companies. I mean, a lot of companies are data-driven, or at least they say they're data-driven. But they look inwards a lot. They look at their own data. They look at kind of their internal business intelligence and so on. And there's so much data out there. This is a little bit like trying to drive a car looking just at the speedometer and kind of ignoring the traffic. I guess you could kind of have run your company perfectly looking at the internal data in 2008 and still gone belly up because of the economy. So I'm going to give you one example of a project that we helped a company with. So insurance company, which one is a better driver? This has to do with kind of your risk strategy and so on. So, young versus old drivers. We all have our opinions and so on, but, let's look at the data. So what we did is we took some internal data from this company, and we drew a chart. So this is, no 3D, as you'll notice. So the age groups are here, and these are the percentages, and this kind of confirms what we kind of tend to think. Young drivers are obviously kind of causing more accidents than the old drivers. But that's not all. We have to look at this in context. So let's also look at the distribution of population. This is in Iceland, so this is kind of real data from there. So from this, we'd gather that the kind of old driver was more secure. But he has a tattoo, so you have to be careful. This is the age distribution in Iceland instead. So if we compare these two pictures, you'll see that they're quite different. And this is external data. This is data that comes from demographics information from the statistics office. So if we actually correct for the age distribution and create an index out of that, this is what it looks like. So it's actually, after you've been driving for a few years, you're actually the best driver on the street. Then kind of it's quite flat until the age of about 60, where kind of you tend to become more and more dangerous as a driver. And there are other factors. So this comes out quite nice for the younger guy. And there are other factors that you have to take into consideration as well. For example, that this group doesn't drive nearly as much as the younger people do. So kind of if you take into this different things, you'll come to different conclusions looking at outside data as well. And this is just one example of using external data in your internal business. So the question number one, are you sure that you are using all the great available data that is out there to make your decisions, to make the best decisions and run your business? Now, the second example that I told you I'm going to talk about is opening up your own data. Is there possibly some data that we think should be confidential that we should open up and make unconfidential? And I'm not talking about putting your entire kind of data from your company up on WikiLeaks. We're gonna, this is going to be strategic. We're going to think about what we're going to do here. I'm going to give you one example of an industry that has transformed the way it thinks about data from practical reasons, and that is the one of the airline business. So a friend of mine started a company in 2004. It's a search engine called DoHop. And what DoHop does is that it searches like Kayak or Opodo or these guys. It searches across different airlines for flights and prices and so on. When he was starting this out, he had lawyers on his back every day. People were trying to block him from reading information from his sites. They were threatening him with legal action because the airlines always wanted people to come to their own sites and book the tickets. Nowadays, this is totally transformed, and these, just because being available on sites like these has brought new business to the airlines. And now they pride themselves in making this data available in as good a format as they possibly can. And this is just one example of how industry or a company can benefit from opening up their data. So the second question I'm going to ask you is, could you potentially benefit, get new customers, be more transparent and thereby kind of gain or regain trust for your business, or even publish some data for marketing purposes? We've helped companies kind of create indexes that have become fantastic marketing tools for them and given them free exposure in a lot of media. People are almost waiting to kind of see the latest index and publish something. So that's an example where you take internal data, create something out of it, and publish it for your own benefit. So that's all from me. I'd love to kind of continue this conversation, and I hope to do so for the rest of the day. There are lots of different ways to contact me, and feel free to do so. So thank you.